Okay, so what do we have? Oh wow, look at this. Okay, so I'm Bob Walder. I was born in England. I founded my own company probably over 30 years ago now. I had it for about 25 years, and it was internet security and testing security devices. So always been a real techie guy. Love data. Um, Kind of messed around with trading in the past because, and read all the books on technical analysis and support and resistance. So I had that basis, when I finally started trading. But I didn't trade. Going from England, I moved to France for 10 years, spent 10 years there before where I sold my company for the first time to some Americans, one of whom disappeared in a cloud of booze, coke, and hookers within 6 months. And so I ended up getting pulled back into it. And that's why ended up moving to the States in 2012. My brother-in-law was doing it, and seemed like, well, yeah, I know the basics, right? And he suggested another service to me. It's not one that gets mentioned in chat that often, so it's not one of the, it's not one of the guys that are like the biggest jokes. But I thought he knew what he was doing. I mean, he was making money. He live streams all these trades. He was profitable, and I thought this is good. And I blew up my account more times than I would care to admit, and lost more money than I would care to admit. At that point, I thought this service clearly isn't working. I checked out Tricktrades. I figured, you know what, I come across it on Facebook, I think, and figured, yeah, let's give it a try. I'd always steered away from options trading. And that's kind of what I knew Pat did, and it's why I'd resisted joining Tricktrades. Obviously didn't really understand the kind of options trading Pat's doing. So that was my bad, and I really wish I'd got into Tricktrades sooner. I mean, just all of a sudden there's a strategy. It's not just, well, set a 10-cent stop limit. I mean, it's which gets blown off on the first dip, and then the stock soars, and it's so that there's no strategy there. The whole risk reward thing was skewed, if it was in place at all. So I started with Pat, and I did. I'm an avid reader. I'm an avid watcher of videos. I love knowledge. I mean, I bought Boss Carbon, I think, before I actually joined, if I remember rightly. Um, and that's kind of when I realized, this is not what I thought it was. So, but I like the whole strategy appealed to me. Um, but I was not successful because I used way too much size because I had a big account. I used way too much size from day one. Um, had no freaking clue what I was doing, despite the mentorship and the guidance. I really didn't understand what the real process was, which was learn to be a trader and learn to do this professionally. And Pat is not going to tell you when to click the buttons. It's all of a sudden it's obvious where these trades should be taken. And I realized that was the aim all along. If he just tells you push a button, you get nothing out of that. So I, but initially I thought I knew better, where I could have 20 out of 22 trading days green and have two red days, and one of them's 1,000, and one of them will be 10,000. And that I worked a full month for nothing, so what the hell's that all about? So along comes Size Up, and I'm like, man, I really wish I'd had this when I first started. I wished I got into trick trades when I first started trading, and I wish we'd had Size Up from day one. I'd be in a very different position now. Everybody loses money first year. Cost of doing business. You don't get anywhere by not taking trades, and if you're taking trades when you don't know what you're doing yet, you're going to lose some money. And I think Size Up is genius because it gives you a structure to progress while limiting your risk and limiting your losses. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about how impatient I was and how I needed to get better at that. I needed to wait for trades. I needed to wait for levels. And I think once I really got on board with that mental side, um, I progressed pretty quickly. Because as I say, I was certainly trading without fear. Um, there was zero emotion on these trades, which is what Pat always says that we have to have. Um, so yeah, I got through Size Up in 4 months. I think 4 months. Being able to trade without fear of blowing up the account because there's no way you can do it initially, at least. Um, that, but you're still making real trades and you're still sticking to the strategy. And as I say, I'm having to wait for those levels. I'm having to be a lot more careful about where I enter. I realized that I still, my lack of consistency was probably due to do with the fact that I was too impatient and was getting in too early. And I certainly understood how to average, but I was averaging too much and ended up with way too much size. My losses are minimal compared to the profits, and yeah, and I'm not as stressed out. I'm not trading with the same fear that I was before. Didn't even really recognize that as a potential benefit of going into Size Up. That was that's real interesting. That's a moment of self-reflection right here that I just realized, yeah, you know what? That's been a huge benefit of Size Up, that confidence. So yeah, I've loved it, and it has changed the way I trade. Stick with it. I mean, trust the process, trust the systems, trust the strategy. Um, Stick with it. You you are gonna lose money in the first year. It's the cost of doing business, like the education, trick trades. It's the cost of doing business. If you've never set up a business before, I mean, you'd be surprised at the sunk cost at the start of any enterprise, and you have to approach this in the same way. So don't get discouraged. Stick it out. Just really trust it. Book the clinics with Calvo. Maybe I keep listening to the chats when Calvo takes over, and sometimes he seems to be struggling to find people to do clinics, and I'd be like, um, if I was a newbie to trading or a newbie to trade, man, I'd be on Calvo's back every week more than once. Okay, well, what did I do wrong here? It's a level of assistance and education that is, I think, unparalleled in the industry, and you just should be taking advantage of it. So if you find you're struggling, you know, hit Calvo up for a clinic as often as you can. He might get sick of hearing from you, I don't know. But, do it and just trust the process and get out of wheelhouse one, wheelhouse two, and, just plug away and get out of there and get to the point where you can start averaging in, because that's when you'll really learn. You're all in the right place to not make the same mistakes I did. And man, I wish I'd found this place sooner.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Bob Walder. I am honored that I am the first graduate of the Tricktrades Size Up program, and as a reward for completing that amazing program, Pat sent me this. Have not opened it yet. Actually been sitting here for 2 weeks while we've been away. So let's get to it and see what's in here. Okay, a letter. Mr. Bob Walder. Okay. Size Up was definitely a challenge. You have to follow the process. You have to follow the strategy, you have to follow his guidance, you have to follow your training. And I owned my own business for over 25 years, and there's a certain amount of ego goes along with that, and it's very difficult sometimes to give up the idea of doing things your own way. We all think we know better. If we knew better, we wouldn't be here. Tricktrades has been a game changer for me, and yet I was still struggling. I was struggling with consistency. And the Size Up program was a difficult choice to make, to get into that, because it required sacrificing profit for progress. Downsizing the account, downsizing my trades, and trying to stick with the protocol week after week and achieve that consistency. The discipline required is tremendous, and it took a while to get into it, to embrace it, but once I did, I found my entries were getting better, my patience was increasing, and as a result my consistency improved. And the result of that was, as I said, I was the first person to graduate Evolution 1 of Size Up. And okay, so what do we have? Oh wow, look at this. How amazing is that? Obviously the growth in my account was reward for completing that program successfully. But this is, I'm gonna have to channel my inner Pat here and say, this is fucking amazing. Thank you, Pat, for all you do, for the guidance, the mentorship, and the creation of the Size Up program. Without it, I don't think I would have been as consistent as I am at this stage. And I would like to just thank you and the entire Tricktrades team for everything you do. This is amazing. Thank you.